No Harry Potter movie is
And
good.
you're like, give me the Snyder Cut. Oh, sorry, just walk in front of you here. Gonna put my popcorn down. Oh, sorry, gonna put this here.
Universal needs to sue Sony.
Hey, I'm an idiot. I was fired from Fox. Let me go.
I'd like actually to see Venom just crush Spider-Man.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of this amazing podcast, The Comic Boy Show. I am joined by... you just introduce yourself, because, it's better like that.
I'm Michael. I'm from the Star Wars podcast. And I'm excited to have this conversation with you, Khalil. I think it's going to be very interesting. I think we're going to disagree on a lot of things as always, but I think that's the joy of talking to you.
Absolutely. I mean, I could guarantee you we are going to disagree on a ton. But at the end of the day, we both love Star Wars, and this is going to be a very Star Wars heavy episode because apparently Star Wars wants to be stupid. So, here we are.
I can't wait to hear why you think that.
Oh, I don't know. You haven't seen my tweets. I was tweeting about the Bad Batch yesterday. Ooh, that was some stuff. Yeah.
See, I won't fight you as hard on the Bad Batch, but we'll see about the other things.
So without further ado, let's get started. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the Bad Batch and more of a question I had for you, and I wanted to kind of see what you thought of this. So I was watching the Bad Batch, the last episode, the most recent one, yesterday, right? And there's the episode, and there's spoilers in this. If you haven't seen the Bad Batch, go watch it. So you know how Crosshairs was the main character of that episode, right? And
right.
He was such a compelling character. So, and I'm sitting here thinking, and actually tweeting, because anything I think I just tweet because that's smart. I'm sitting here tweeting, this is the most compelling Star Wars character we've gotten in the entire Disney Star Wars era, and I'm also super invested in these clones who I don't care about more so than any of the characters in the movies. Why is it that you can make this irrelevant clone a more interesting character and a character you want to root for more than any of the than Rey or Finn or any of these other characters?
So, as always, I'll disagree with you in some respect. I do agree with you in some things as well, though. So, number one, I'll say this. Crosshair is by far the best character on the Bad Batch. That I cannot deny. While I have a lot of issues with the sequels, I have a lot of issues with the characters. I think the heart of the sequels between Rey and Kylo is very strong, and I think both of those characters are stronger than Crosshair. I think there are characters on The Mandalorian that are stronger than Crosshair. I feel like for now, and I think we can get to a better place with Crosshair, but he's still a little one note. And that's not necessarily my problem with him as it is all of the characters on the show. I have a hard time connecting with a lot of the Bad Batch.
Well, but at the end of the episode, he showed he's depth to him, and also I don't know. It's okay, you say you have a hard time connecting these characters, right? But I feel like that kind of it's a different vibe, I guess. It's right. It's a very outsidery vibe that they have, and it's kind of in a weird way a better would you prefer the crew of Rogue One or the Bad Batch in terms of character you can get behind?
Rogue One.
Why?
I would say the cast of characters is much more diverse. I think they're more interesting, and I think some of them are way funnier. I'm just way more intrigued with them.
Okay, that's fair. I have to disagree. I don't know. There's something about the Bad Batch. And it's just something I think maybe it's just an animated Star Wars thing, because that could be a possibility. Because as we know, animated Star Wars is, beyond amazing. But I feel like there's a disconnect. And even you look at the Clone Wars, right, being significantly, in my opinion, better than most of the movies, at least maybe all of the movies. And I don't understand why it is. But it's just something with the animated Star Wars where they're just able to, and even the TV in general, okay, you go get Andor a little bit of credit, Mandalorian credit here, Obi-Wan even credit, but why can't they do this with the movies is I guess the bigger question, right? Is why can't they give the characters, the characters do so well TV, but the movies just were not that.
So there were some rumors recently about how Kathleen Kennedy, who is like the executive producer of Lucasfilm or whatever, how she really wanted to put her thumb on the scale of Mandalorian season 3. She wanted to change things. She didn't like certain things, and apparently Jon Favreau had to quit based on her involvement, which is funny because, and this is less confirmed than the first thing I said, but it's still been rumored a lot. Apparently, the same thing happened between J.J. Abrams and Kathleen Kennedy, where Kathleen Kennedy had basically taken pieces of J.J. Abrams' ideas and then threw an entire different movie on top of it, which made it a complete mess for The Rise of Skywalker.
She also hired J.J., which is the other thing, right?
Yeah. So
because they fired directors to hire him, right? So
my guess is there's almost too much focus on the movies, or there's too much pressure on the movies, right? Where they feel like they have to have all these extra eyeballs. I feel like Jon Favreau, he might think he has it bad, but imagine if he directed a movie. I think that would not pay off as well as directing a TV show. So, yeah, it's just there's a lot of pressure going on. They rushed things a lot, and I don't know. It was just an absolute mess through and through, from the creative process to everything, and the disagreements that happened along the way. I went away, but I saw it for a second.
don't know why you do that. Oh shoot, oops. Okay, we'll have to restart that, like a little part of that, like from the graph, because I forgot to unmute the audio. So if you're watching on YouTube, you can see that I literally just did this. I'm very annoyed about that. So if you're watching on YouTube, you can see you can see a graph, and if you're not, you can't. So I'm going to describe this graph. Basically, you've got all the Star Wars movies from like in the Disney Star Wars era, and with the domestic box office gross. And then you've got the Marvel movies from Avengers Age of Ultron to just before Black Panther, whatever that movie was. And you've got the Jurassic World franchise, and so after Jurassic Park, obviously. And then you have the DCEU from Batman v Superman onward. And so you have them all kind of plotted out. And Star Wars clearly outpaces everything, right? And so these Star Wars movies are profitable. So why is it the case that they don't want to do this? Like, I don't understand that. Why don't you want to make profitable movies? That should be a no-brainer, right?
Well, I feel like the reason they're profitable is because they aren't in abundance. I would say that Marvel is the best example of this. Imagine if Marvel came out with a movie every 2 years, maybe even every 3 years. I think that people would be way more hyped about going to see that event. Like, I feel like Star Wars movies are more an event than a lot of these other ones. And I don't know why that is. Like, why do people like Star Wars more than Jurassic Park? I don't know. Because I mean, I would say that Jurassic World had a similar release schedule to the sequels. So I feel like I can definitely pinpoint the issue with Marvel. And when you come down to like Jurassic Park versus Star Wars, I think more people just like Star Wars. But again, I think that's the thing. It's like, I don't even get it because it's all under this same umbrella of Disney. But for whatever reason, Lucasfilm versus Marvel Studios, Lucasfilm is way less interested in oversaturating their films or coming out in abundance. So, which I think that's a great thing, honestly. And I think they've taken a big step back from their original they had originally planned like 3 standalone movies, 3 sequels, and they were going to come out like one every year. They ended up stepping away from that a little bit. And then they stopped altogether after Rise of Skywalker. And they've been like really taking their time. I think they're being a lot more careful. And I think that's what they need to do. And I think people are going to come flocking to the theaters again when it does finally return.
So I take your point there, right? And I take the point of like, this is Star Wars and this is like, of an event thing. But I feel like they're like, because you just look at what they're canceling, right? Also, you look at the fact that, by the way, just so people understand this, there is no Star Wars movie even in the near future, right? Like, the Taika one is somewhere in the vicinity of starting production, right? Like, currently the idea is he's starring and directing in the movie. That's all. Like, there's nothing else. Like, they're like, this is a very, like, far out, like, we don't know when that one's coming out. That could be 2025, 2026, we're looking, like, far, far out. So, like, it's kind of crazy to me that they're just not interested in movies because I understand Solo, I guess, flopped money-wise, right? Like, it didn't do as well as Star Wars is expected to, as in it didn't hit at least $1 billion, right? And in their minds, obviously, that was a flop because Star Wars hits $1 billion. But it in my mind, it's still crazy that you don't want to tell any stories with the movies because, like, I understand you want to do the TV shows and that's great, and the TV shows have been great. But even like, and I don't know I have an idea. Okay, I want to hear you to hear this and tell me what you think. What if they did an animated Star Wars movie? Like Clone Wars style, I guess. Like, when they did the Clone Wars theatrical release movie thing with the Jabba son quest?
Yeah.
What if they did something like that? You can't tell me that's not going to make money.
Yeah, it's not a bad idea. And here's the thing, like, to be fair, I don't get why they're doing this. I like, truly, when you look at, again, every other faction of Disney, like, they don't do this. They're all about like just going over the top with this stuff. So it is weird. You're right. I'm grateful that they're not rushing into things and they're not like just giving us a movie or 3 to 4 movies a year. With that being said, I do think there's room to experiment a little bit. I think there is room to do an animated movie. I think the other thing is, though, I don't feel like they feel the need, because when you do like a theatrical release, there comes marketing and a lot of other stuff and baggage that comes along with it, when they can look at it and be like, or we could just do like 16 episodes, it's way cheaper, throw it on Disney Plus. Again, it's not going to attract as many people, but I don't know. There has to be something in that algorithm or their budget there that makes sense for them to stick with the animated TV show rather than an animated movie. Because I'm with you. I think that sounds like a great idea.
Well, I just think, like, okay, look, I know you're huge forces, or not, what's it called? The voices, or what's the anime?
The Visions, yeah.
Visions, yeah. I know you're a huge Visions guy, right? Mm-hmm. I haven't actually tried to get into it as much, so I watched one episode. But like, what if they did like a Visions movie? Like, is that not something which, it's a low risk, high reward move, right? Because I think at this point, if Star Wars wants to be careful, I guess, then what you do is you just go low risk, high reward, right? You say, okay, we're gonna do something which won't cost a lot to produce, i.e. something animated, right? Or something in that kind of cheaper area. And then if it's good Star Wars, it's gonna make money. Bad Star Wars makes money. Good Star Wars is definitely gonna make money. Maybe you even reach out to more of an audience than you normally would get, or a different audience than you get. Plus, you get all the Star Wars fans, which very much exist, right? Like, we would both be there the first day possible to watch this damn movie. Like, It
Yeah.
doesn't matter what they put out. So it in my mind, I was thinking about this, and I'm like, why? Like, is there anything you want to see from Star Wars in terms of movies? Like, if they told you, before they took it away, because they, that's how it works with directors. They give you a Star Wars movie and then they take it away. If they gave you one before they took it away, what would you want to do?
So I want to go back a little bit, and then I'll answer that question.
Yeah.
First and foremost, I actually think, you know what, Khalil, you're kind of on fire tonight. This might be the best I've seen you, okay? You've made really great points, and actually, you've got me completely stolen on a Star Wars Visions movie. I think that's probably the best financial decision you could make. Number one, it's Star Wars, so automatically you're making money. Number two, I don't know what it is about, I'm not an anime guy. I don't really understand, I don't know all the details, but it seems like every couple years there's an anime movie that comes out that just crushes global box office, and I don't even know the names of them, and they're it's a completely different world. And I think that if
currently there is one,
by
the way, that's crushing box office, which is
and it's I don't even know what the hell that is, and it's one of the biggest things in the world. But if you can capture that audience and the Star Wars audience, I think you've just made gold. So I'm with you there. Now I'll tell you my pitch.
Okay, I'm ready for this.
This is a wild one. And I think most people would disagree that this needs to happen. My pitch for the next Star Wars movie, it's called Star Wars X. X being the Roman numeral for 10. You are going back to I know, you're going back to the sequel characters. You're going back to Rey. Rey is training Finn to be a Jedi. We get all the things that we didn't get. We focus on Rose's character. I don't know who the villain is. It doesn't really matter. But we give that Skywalker saga the closure that it never got with Rise of Skywalker. And I say you put time into it. Again, I don't care if it's 4 or 5 years from now, but do something great. Do something spectacular, and do service to the saga that really landed with a freaking whimper and is really unfortunate.
I love that. That was not where I was expecting you to go, but I'm good. See, I want more, and it's weird because I was never I was always very mixed on the sequel trilogy. I didn't know how to feel because I loved it and I watched it 100 times, but at the same time, I was always this just doesn't feel even the prequels. As much as I didn't hate Episode 1 or anything as much as most people did. I'm one of the biggest advocates for, and I know you absolutely are one of the most biggest advocates for the Jar Jar movies and the Jar Jar existence. But I'm one of the bigger advocates for Episode 1, at least. I think 2 is absolute garbage, and I think 3 is okay. But I think Episode 1 is the best one because I like global politics or internet, space politics is fun. But I was gonna say go all the way back. Give us the damn Old Republic. How many times do we have to beg and plead and just we want the Old Republic. We've been begging for it for how many years? It's time to give us the Old Republic. It's time.
Yeah. Are you familiar with what they're doing with the books and comics with the High Republic?
Absolutely, huge fan, by the way. Huge fan of High Republic. Yeah.
Okay. Well, we are getting so it's not the Old Republic. It's actually closer in the timeline. Old Republic's even further back. But we are getting the Acolyte show, and my theory is I think they're leaning into this. I think after the Acolyte, I think we're going to find, and actually here's another prediction of mine. I wanted the Star Wars X movie, but what I think we're going to get, I think Taika Waititi is a High Republic movie. I think that's where the next bit of Star Wars is coming from. We're going to have the Ahsoka, Mando, Boba Fett arc closed out at some point, and then we're going to have our Acolytes of the world. We're going to have the Taika Waititi movie, and whatever else comes after that. I think we're going back. I don't know if we're going as far back as you might want, but I think we're going back.
Okay, why do they hate the Old Republic? They even you look at the games, right? And my most anticipated game, at least when it was announced before they kind of, I don't know where, it literally got into development, which is the Old Republic reboot game, or remake game, or revamp, or whatever they're doing to it. They announced that. I literally lost my mind when they announced that. I was so excited. I was they're finally listening to us. They actually care what we think. And then that game, I don't even know what happened to it. I know it was delayed. I think it's delayed indefinitely, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that sounds right.
And I'm what the hell? All we've asked for is Old Republic since how long? Probably since the original game came out. Everyone's been begging anyone who will listen for an Old Republic movie.
Mm-hmm.
like the old Sith, the old Jedi, you know, the origin of the Sith, the origin of the Rule of Two. They made all that stuff. They made all that stuff like they took it out of the canon when Disney bought Star Wars, right? I think, if I'm not mistaken, all that stuff, all those books, like, you know, the origin, the Rule of Two, and all that stuff, all basically went out when Disney bought Star Wars. So why are they not giving us that stuff? Like, that's the stuff you need to see in movies. That's the movie stuff. That's the Jedi and the Sith, right? The origins, the why did the Rule of Two come about? Like, all of this stuff.
So, and I hear what you're saying, definitely on board. And I think I know what the reason is. I think the reason is they feel like you can't have Star Wars without the nostalgia. You need the Stormtroopers, you need the Empire, right? Like, they basically recreated the original trilogy for the sequels, right? I feel like they are stuck in this time period because they feel like that's Star Wars, right? This time period is what everyone is familiar with, and that's what people are comfortable with. And it's hard to imagine, you know, how do you go back 3,000 whatever years it is and continue the story and make it feel like Star Wars? I think if I had to guess that's their concern, I would disagree. Obviously, I think you can totally pull it off. Especially, all you need is a lightsaber, right? Like, or a bunch of people with a lightsaber, and like it works. But if I had to guess, that would be
$1 billion. Like, that's pretty much the bar at this point.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, like, okay, now, do you think this is a Kathleen Kennedy thing? Do you think this is like a Dave Filoni thing? Because obviously he's still heavily involved. Do you think this is, I mean, I assume Favreau is probably, like, I feel like Filoni and Favreau are probably down for that kind of thing. And I think it is. And as much as I, like, again, I don't like fueling the Kathleen Kennedy hate that there's so much of, because, you know, I personally don't think, like, you know, there's a lot of things I'm sure, you know, there's a lot of things said about her by Star Wars fans, I guess they call themselves, you know, things that are mean, like personally insulting, and I don't want to fuel any of that. And so what I'm saying more is, do you think she's kind of had her run her course and it's time to kind of move to someone who's going to be a little bit more risky and creative and less, like, you kind of did the safe stuff, now it's time to go a little bit kind of crazier?
Yeah, I don't, just because so much of the movies just hadn't been working, like, I don't think it's a bad idea. I mean, just like DC's done with James Cameron, I don't think it's a bad idea. Or James Gunn. Yeah.
We all knew what you meant.
Just bringing in a new creative to spice things up a little bit. And here's the thing, I think you're right, Dave Filoni would be down for it. I think the other issue Dave Filoni has is he gets way too attached to his characters. I think he's very much in love with his Rebels crew. And I think he's going to close it out, and then hopefully once he kind of closes that chapter of his Star Wars life, he'll be more open to doing something like that. Because again, like, that he's totally the guy to do it. We just gotta, like, pull him away from Ahsoka. Like, he just loves that character. I mean, we all do, but like,
I mean, there's a good reason he loves Ahsoka, and I don't know anyone who doesn't love Ahsoka. But I think you're right. Well, I think the biggest thing for him was always like, I don't know if you remember this, but way back when I loved Rebels, by the way. There's some, I would argue some Rebels seasons are better than some Clone Wars seasons. Like, you know, if you did really rank them. I absolutely love Rebels. I also love Maul and Ahsoka, so it really just worked for me. But, you know, there were some kind of, like, they kept telling him, you're going to get your sequel series to kind of resolve this, right? Like, I don't know if you remember, they promised him basically, I guess, a further sequel series to kind of resolve it, because he left so many things open. And then they never really did, and instead they kind of just gave him this, like, random bag of TV characters and said, hey, go do something with this. And he's like, you never gonna. And so I think more than anything, he wants to just finish his story, and he's kind of had to wait. Like, you know, I'm so excited. The Ahsoka show might be the most anticipated I've been for a Star Wars project since, I don't even know. Like, I'm beyond excited for that one. And I think he's going to finally get a chance to end that story. We're going to finally get to see some of these guys, you know, get their resolutions. And you don't have to even kill Ahsoka. I don't even know if she's, like, what her status actually is going to be, because, you know, we keep jumping around. But I think, you know, you could keep her around, but then you just got to kind of, I think he'll be able to move on a little bit more. And I think he did kind of tease, I don't remember if he did, but, like, I think he kind of teased some Old Republic stuff in Rebels at some point, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think there's definitely Easter eggs throughout at least.
Or maybe
I
it's
don't
Clone
know.
Wars. I don't. All the now the shows kind of blend together now, so it's like I know there were Old Republic teasers for sure.
Mhm.
I don't know. I just feel like it's time to move to. If I hear another like synopsis for a Star Wars story set between episodes 3 and 4 or episodes what's
6 and 7.
6 and 7. What's the other time period they always do? It's 2 and 3, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, 2 and 3.
yeah.
So any of those 3 time periods should be off limits for anything Star Wars going forward because I cannot handle another, like, come on, a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, a long time ago. Come on, guys, like let's Also, I would never want to see Tatooine on in another Star Wars thing again. I don't know. And that might just be me, but
See, I don't mind Tatooine because if they don't do Tatooine, then they just invent a new desert planet like Jakku. Like they just like there's like so many other like even when they don't do Tatooine, they still kind of do Tatooine.
But at least like it's a different planet, so it's like okay, we're not using the planet that was literally sold as this irrelevant planet no one cared about is the most important planet in the entire Star Wars universe. Like, it drives me like at least Jakku was a different place, right? It was another irrelevant planet no one cared about, right? And so I think you know what they got to do to Tatooine. I'm telling you, they got to make it like they got to like basically say, oh no, now people really care about Tatooine. So then it's like it no longer can be the place where irrelevant people live. Then you have to go find somewhere else.
They're gonna do like the Tatooine origin movie next. Now you put that out in the universe.
No, I'll still watch it, but
Yeah.
I'm gonna complain a lot.
Yeah, I think, Chloe, I think the thing is, like, I get it. I hear you're not wrong about anything. I think for now, I think we should be grateful that they're not rushing things and just enjoy what we have because and we haven't even really touched on The Mandalorian much, and I'm excited to get your takes on that. But what we're getting with Star Wars TV is really good. And, like, of all the live action ones, honestly, I think well, Book of Boba Fett was actually the worst, but Kenobi was after that, and it's like, but even Kenobi was like really
Kenobi.
good. Yeah, they're doing great things with the TV shows, so I'm not in a rush right now.
Okay, now
We'll get there.
Ready for the controversy? Now this is where now we're gonna talk a little bit about the Mandalorian. I literally like 5 minutes before I told you let's start a little early. I finished watching the second episode of second episode of the new season of the Mandalorian. I don't think because I haven't recorded a video or anything between watching the first episode and the second episode. Actually, this is the first time anyone is going to hear my opinion on this show so far, like this version, like this season of the show. I'm not a fan. Not gonna lie. I think they've I don't know what they're doing. I don't love what they might be trying to do, and I think I'm not sold on the. I was I was a Mandalorian fan in season 1. Season 2, I was an Ahsoka fan. Now, I don't know what I'm supposed to be a fan of because I feel like The Mandalorian started off as just this its old thing, and now it's become like this random character is the center of the Star Wars universe. And everything goes through him. Also, he still has the merchandising opportunity, wandering around with him. So,
So wait, is it both episodes you're not feeling, or was it just the most recent episode?
I feel like I was feeling it less and less over the course of season 2 because it's like, oh, every other episode is a cameo and ending up with Luke Skywalker. That was the last season, right? It was Luke Skywalker? Yeah, okay. I don't know. It feels like it's so long since we got Mandalorian. And then Book of Boba Fett was a casualty of the Mandalorian curse because we got an episode of the Mandalorian in the Book of Boba Fett. And now, of course, we have merchandising opportunity back with Mando, and he is continuing his wandering around. I don't know what he's doing. I never understood his purpose, and I understand it less now. At least when he was trying to figure out who Grogu belongs to, there was some purpose there. But now, I don't know. He's trying to bathe in some water.
Yeah. So, I think this is the theme of the episode here is you're really extreme about your takes, and I don't necessarily agree, but I'm like, let's take a couple steps back, okay? Number one, to answer the question you brought up is who are you supposed to care about right now? The answer is Bo-Katan, okay? I think she's the best. I love her so much. I've never really been a Bo-Katan fan until this last episode. And let me rephrase that. She's never been my favorite character. I've always liked her, but whenever she's on screen, there's another character that I favor over her. I agree with you. Right now, Mandalorian's quest, or Din Djarin's quest, is stupid. I think he's like sucking up to the Armorer. The Armorer sucks. She's not nice. And like he's like doing whatever she says, even if it's ridiculous. Like, and I feel like it depends on where they go with that. If the entire season is him like trying to win favor with this cult leader, or does he like wake up a little bit and go against her? And then I think things get interesting. So I think it depends on where they're going with this. I think it's a lot of setup right now. But for now, I'm enjoying Bo-Katan and just praying for the best.
Okay, so you're not a fan. So I have a question for you. They're just like kind of generally because look, a little bit of my Star Wars naivete is going to show up right now because as much I mean if you ask me to recall everything that's ever happened, so I'm just going to ask you to do that. So this whole thing about the Mandalorian taking off the helmet, right? Mm-hmm. It feels like, and I was just thinking about this, is like it feels like it's like every other episode where there's a Mandalorian, they take off their helmet. Like this doesn't feel like I feel like this wasn't really a thing until like, the Mandalorian TV show. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like every Mandalorian, even like the most loyal, like you think back to like OG Clone Wars Death Watch and all that kind of stuff. Like, there were people that take off their helmets all the time. Like, I just, it feels weird.
So let me give you a comparison, and this is the way I'm reading it, okay? Think Christianity, okay? Mm-hmm. And I'm going to get religious on you.
Okay.
I'm not going to get religious. I'm just going to talk about religion.
Right.
Think of everything we know about the Mandalorians. Think of it like a non-denominational church. Okay, you go into the non-denominational church. The preacher's wearing skinny jeans. He's talking and cool. He's like hip, and they're like cool with gay people and all that, right? Like it's kind of like a chill. They like have rock music instead of like Okay, so that's all of the Mandalorians. Now, when we're talking about the Armorer and her Mandalorians, that is the mega church. That is the TV church. That's the Joel Osteen church,
right? Where
they take money from people and buy big houses and big planes, and they're basically very evil with their money. I think that's the difference we have to look at here. The Armorer's people are extremists. They're crazy. They're doing like the crazy like possessing people on stage type Christianity, right? It's extreme, and I think it's meant to be extreme. Because Mandalorians have never been like that. You're right about that. And I think that's the way they're showing us that we aren't supposed to trust the Armorer.
So is it because again, when you ask me, think extreme Mandalorians, I'm like, wait, what about that Mandalorian terrorist group called Death Watch? Remember that? That was remember they were the extreme
They're
Mandalorians?
like the Taliban.
Well, yeah, but that's the thing. It's like, you would think, okay, well, Bo-Katan, because I think if I'm not like completely messing up my lore right now, Bo-Katan came from that Death Watch kind of lineage, right? Or did she come from?
I'll be honest, I'm not the best at recalling this stuff either. I think you're right though.
I don't know.
Someone's gonna quote us.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think she comes from that. I don't know why it's coming to my brain. She comes from that kind of that kind of lineage, but like. And so it's like, if you're coming from that lineage, right, with Pre Vizsla and all that other stuff, right, that's the strict stuff. Like, that's the, isn't, like, it just feels very repetitive. It's like, unless the reveal ends up being that was, like, the Armor secretly part of, like, is, like, some version of Death Watch, and, like, or some, like, extremist faction of Death Watch, and it's going to be like, oh, this was like a version of, like, a part of Death Watch that they couldn't even handle, like, because it was too extreme. Because Death Watch, at least for a while, was very covert, and until they started being less covert, right? But like, maybe this was an even more extreme part, and that's what they kind of do, or I don't know. I just feel like the Armor is gonna become like some part of Death Watch. That's my hunch, I guess. Like,
I would agree. And here's another key point. Do you know who her buddy is? The big guy, the big Mandalorian.
No.
Okay, so his name is Paz, and his last name is Vizsla. He is a descendant of the Vizsla and Death Watch directly. So I think you're onto something there.
So this is just gonna end up being like a whole. So, but then, oh, I just figured out the whole plot of the Mandalorian season 3. Wow, there we go. Do you want to hear it? I just figured it all out.
Okay.
Okay, so
Lay it on
basically,
me.
she doesn't really care about the whole helmet thing, but she needed no reason. She needed someone to basically, fix Mandalore so that she could go over and take over, and Death Watch can reign over Mandalore as their birth, as they believe it is their birthright, right? Because I think she showed some despondence toward Bo-Katan at some point, right? I think
Yes.
she said Bo-Katan's not like real.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So that makes sense. So then, see what she wants to do. She wants to become like the rightful. She believes that Death Watch was the rightful rulers of Mandalore and all of that stuff. And so that's how it's going to go. Is they're going to it's going to end up being Mandalorian has to choose between the Death Watch people and the Bo-Katan people, and that's going to be the big Mandalore fight we get at the end. And
The Civil War, the Mandalorian Civil War. I think you're onto it.
So that's where we're gonna go. Okay, so that's that we decide the plot is gonna be for this. I mean, I just don't love the unnecessary cameos, like at least from last season. Hopefully that doesn't become a thing for this season because I don't know. The only good part of the Book of Boba Fett though is the cameo of Cad Bane. So I don't know.
Yeah, so I agree. I actually was my son is 3, and I was actually watching The Mandalorian just before coming out. We were watching season 2. We watched back episodes, and honestly, I was really annoyed with the cameos, more so than I was at the time, because like the ending of every episode is like a name drop. Bo-Katan's like, "You're gonna go meet Ahsoka Tano," and then like the next episode, Ahsoka's like, "Where's Thrawn?" And it's like so dramatic, it's so over the top, and it's like, I don't know. Star Wars is so much more than just name drops, right? And the
Mandalorian is more than name drops. Like he should be. His whole season 1 was no name drops, and then it's like name drop, name drop, name drop, name drop, and it's like okay.
Yeah. I don't think it's going to be completely gone. I suspect a lot of cameos in this, which is why on my podcast we did a cameo draft last night.
Yep, I saw that.
So I am very much prepared for the cameos.
The only cameo I want is Rex. I'm indifferent to everything else. Also, kind of very annoyed about this whole IG-88 situation because I believe I believe the one thing the TV shows have done is really bad is giving us bounty hunter stuff. Like, I feel like they've done... Like, I think the TV shows... Like, you look at the Clone Wars, and then you look at, like, Cad Bane in Book of Boba Fett. You look at Boba Fett in Book of Boba Fett. You look at IG-88 in the first season of Mandalorian. You look at... who Mandalorian, I guess, was a bounty hunter, too.
Yeah, it was.
I'm sure they've had other people in there. But it's like... I don't know what you think about this, but I think they've just completely screwed up the whole, like... bounty hunter concept. They made them all weak and lame, and it's kind of sad.
Well, I think the thing is, all the bounty hunters come onto the show, and then they're no longer bounty hunters anymore. Like, the whole thing about the Mandalorian is, like, he's like an ex-bounty hunter now. Boba Fett as well, ex-bounty hunter. It's like, they bring on these, and then IG-11 is a bounty hunter, and then dies, and then he turns good. It's like, nobody on the show is truly a bounty hunter through and through, like, for multiple episodes. I think
Cad Bane died instantly.
Yeah, exactly. It's like I don't think we've even gotten a true bounty hunter story. So I think I would like to see something like that.
Is Taika's movie going to be a bounty hunter movie?
I don't think so.
Because like you think about it, he's going to. Okay, what do you think about him starring in this? By the way, we got to go a bit lower back to that because I forgot to even ask you. Like, are you excited about that, or are you just like shaking your head as I see you doing right now?
I get nervous with Taika. I feel like a lot of his stuff's a mixed bag. It can be really good or it can be really dumb. And I will say, I'm trying to think of. So he was in Jojo Rabbit. What other movies has he directed and also starred in? That's the only one I can think of.
That's the only, at least only recent one he's directed and starred in. And I mean,
And I love Jojo Rabbit. So I
guess
if there's
Thor.
any
Korg, right?
Okay, yeah. Okay, so I love both of those movies. So I guess if that's any sign, I don't think I wouldn't like to see him as the lead. I don't think he is that type. Maybe a villain. Could that work?
You know who? Okay, I'm sorry. I'm just. You know who I want him? Like, I want his movie to be about, and I mean, maybe he could play this person, but oh my god, I'm gonna completely mess up the name. Quinlan Voss. I think that's his name.
Quinlan Voss.
Right?
Yes.
That was the guy who showed up for a minute. Yeah, yeah. He would be the best person to have in either the Mandalorian or in his own movie, because like you think that if you want a rogue Jedi kind of thing, you get that, or even better. Okay, I remember when I first watched this man's episode in Clone Wars gave me like literal nightmares. Oh my god, I don't remember his name though. He had like he was in that one of those episodes where like the clone where he turned on the clones. He was a general, Jedi.
Oh yeah, Umbara or something.
He's like the big fish guy, kind of like.
Yeah, that's like one of my favorite arcs, by the way.
I love that so much. It
Yeah.
literally gave me chills, and I was like,
Yeah.
this is great. Like it's one of the most like epic Star Wars things. I need
Yeah.
him to be getting like something. Like let's go back and explore some of these Jedi who you built up in the Clone Wars, but then just like Kit Fisto has. I don't think they've given him any real role. Like
See, hey, you're falling into the trap, though. We're trying to get out of those eras now, Khalil. We're trying to go back.
No. What I mean is give us some stuff pre-episode 1, right? So
Okay.
Kit Fisto would have been around pre-episode 1. He was
Yeah,
not
I guess
like
so.
all these Jedi were even. And again, I'm gonna be an advocate for a Qui-Gon story before episode 1, because again, these Jedi all existed pre-Anakin. Anakin didn't just come into being, and then all of a sudden these Jedi appeared, right? Like these people were all Jedi masters. I mean, they were all Jedi before that. So give us some of these guys doing stuff either before, or give us, because like the Clone Wars is a massive period of time which we focus on one show, which is focused around Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Ahsoka, right? Obviously these Jedi were doing other things at the time, and I guess High Republic to an extent is the kind of pre-episode 1 stuff, but I mean, I'm all over the place with Star Wars right now, so
Did you watch Tales of the Jedi?
I did. Very late, but I did watch it.
See, I feel like I would love them to keep doing that. Give us more of that. I think that's the place that we can explore these other stories. Because I think what they did there was really effective.
And yet they used Tales of the Jedi to tell us about Ahsoka, Count Dooku,
Yeah, exactly.
and I don't remember who else. Was that it? Was it just the two of them?
Yeah, it was those two, yeah. But there are a lot of people in the Count Dooku one.
It's kind of like, yeah, that's the thing. That Tales of the Jedi is a perfect platform to kind of make it and you know what I would have done if I were in charge? I would have just said, hey, we're gonna give you an anthology Star Wars movie series where every few years you get a movie about a Jedi, and we're gonna keep our movie thing kind of going with that, because you don't have no continuity, just a bunch of lights, because people go to movies for like blind action and fun, right? Also, I need the Solo sequel series still, because
Okay.
which I know, but it needs to happen.
No, I'm not against it. I think they're covering a lot of it in comics right now. I actually did not really following, but like from an outsider's perspective, it seems like they're kind of doing that there.
No, I need them to bring back the guy who was really good at Han Solo and was unjustifiably hated on, especially by me. And I regret that once I watched it. One of my first ever videos on this channel was my reaction to the Solo trailer, and I was hating on him like crazy. I don't think it was one of my first videos, but like one of my videos kind of early on was the Solo trailer reaction. I was hating on him endlessly, and I mean, after I watched that movie, I regretted it because he was awesome.
Whatever happened to the Lando show?
That's dead. That's dead. That's dead.
Come on.
That's dead.
I would love to see Donald Glover back.
Well,
and then
I would
actually,
love it, but it's dead.
Yeah. Is it really
I
though?
think they
Like I
killed
feel like
it.
I just haven't heard anything.
I know. I think they killed it. I think they said they pushed it to the back burner, which means they've killed it.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure
Sounds
they
dead.
did. Yeah.
Okay.
They've just been even I think the Ghost Squadron thing or whatever
Rogue
it's
Squadron,
called,
yeah.
or yeah.
That one's definitely. That's been like canceled like 3 times and brought back, and it was just recently canceled again.
And now they're getting sued for it, I think.
Are they really?
They're getting sued for something, some Star Wars story. I don't know. They've announced so many things that it's hard to like.
Yeah, Star Wars is a mess.
Let's just see what they're getting sued for, so I don't like. Acolyte
Well, we.
lawsuit.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, that's not good. Because that's already been filmed too.
Is it? So, the lawsuit claims Lucas. Wait, is Acolyte canceled?
No, it's been like I saw set photos, like months back.
They just did a whole bunch of stuff with Star Wars, so I don't know what the hell's happening. But, I thought it was. Was it a fire?
I mean, they might Batgirl it, but I don't think it's been made.
Oh no, they just kicked off the producer and for no reason, and they're getting sued for it.
Star Wars does that a lot too. So
I don't know. Okay,
randomly
they
fight.
need to just like roll with the directors instead of like deciding they're like they even I don't. I'm sure you've read the leaked script for like the original version of Episode 9, right?
Yes, and it sounds awesome.
It does, and I wanted that, but I know
Yeah.
we never got that. We got Star Wars, man. Let's talk about Marvel though, because Star Wars is
Okay.
now kind of making me disappointed.
Well, if you weren't disappointed enough, let's move to the MCU.
Hey, the MCU is it's existing. Okay, so apparently trilogies are bad according to Bob Iger, the newly reinstated CEO of Disney. That's not exactly what he said, but he said, maybe we got to look at new characters instead of just keep revisiting these characters for 3, 4, 5 times.
Hmm.
What do you think about that?
I'm pondering. I don't know that I necessarily agree with that at all. Actually.
Well, I mean, think about the third movie. So you got Civil War, Iron Man 3, the best Iron Man movie, second best Iron Man movie, depending on who you ask. Right? You got Infinity War as the third Avengers movie. You got
Thor Ragnarok, No Way Home.
Right.
I mean, I keep it's almost never the first movie that I like the most.
Well, it's the weird thing is the second one is always the weak link because the second one always has the high expectation, like super high expectations right after the first one is awesome. And the third one, your expectations are lowered significantly by the second one, which means the third one always seems amazing, right? Obviously, you look at Iron Man, super high expectations. Iron Man 2, that was not a good movie. And then Iron Man 3 was awesome. And then some cases there were Captain America, the first Avenger was eh. Then Captain America, the Winter Soldier was awesome. And Civil War was, depending on who you ask, or not eh. I didn't like it, but, I know a lot of people who did. It made a lot of money. Right? But I think the real problem is when you get to 4. Like, you look at Endgame, you look at Love and Thunder, you look at, I think, is that the only other 4 one we've had? Those 2?
Yeah, I think that's it. Yeah.
But, like, you look at those 2, and it's like, eh. I think you just got to stop at 3.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think Ant-Man and the Wasp is, like, a real thing to worry about in that sense, because it's still an Ant-Man movie.
I would like to see what I would actually like to see is more team up movies, and not like Avengers, but like where's like Doctor Strange and the Hulk movie, or I think you can kind of do 2 birds with 1 stone with some of this stuff. I don't think you have to follow this like this very basic trilogy structure. I think you can just kind of mix and match characters, and maybe it's not even like this is Doctor Strange and Hulk. Maybe it's called, I don't know, this is the multiverse movie. It's like, I feel, I get why they do it. Like, they put big Doctor Strange up there so people know what they're seeing and they know the name and they go to the theater to see the person in the movie. But I think they could be a lot more fluid and a lot more creative with some of these movies, is like, I guess what I'm getting at. More Civil Wars, stuff like that.
Well, I mean, I think you think about Ant-Man and the Wasp, right? Thor Ragnarok. Like, these were technically team-up movies to some extent.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, but I think more of my issue is, like, obviously I have a vested interest in Marvel doing well this year. So, So, I mean, I need Marvel to do well, and so,
And you talked a lot of shit about it, too.
I
you
did.
Called us all stupid.
I did, and, it's not
going to come back to you.
So I have a very vested interest, and I think the Marvels. I think that's exactly what you're talking about, right? Like, do these kind of, don't make it just the Captain Marvel 2, make it the Marvels, and have the character who everyone loves significantly more than Captain Marvel right now, along with Captain Marvel and the other Captain Marvel, and do that, right?
Yes.
And I think, I think there's so many teams in Marvel that you have that opportunity. I don't know if you ever watched these or ever heard of these. I guess these were technically after your time when you would have watched them, but like, they used to release those animated Marvel, like those team up, like it was like Wolverine versus the Hulk, and they had like Black Widow and the Punisher, and they had all of those things. I don't know if you remember those. Iron Man and the Hulk and all that stuff.
I didn't watch them, but I know exactly. I've seen them. I know they exist.
Yeah, so I mean, those used to be awesome. Like those. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I don't know. Like, I know you have to do work within like a universe, and that kind of sometimes makes it a little bit hard. But I don't know. Do you have any prevailing thoughts on Marvel? And then we talk a little bit about Daredevil.
It's been a really Phase 4 was really tough. I spent a long time trying to defend it, and then it kind of just also ended with a whimper as well. I have a lot of hope for Guardians of the Galaxy coming up here. I think they do have a structure. I think this lead up to Thunderbolts is going to be a lot of fun, hopefully. So I basically feel nothing about Marvel right now, because if I get too excited, I'll be disappointed. And so that's kind of where I'm at with the MCU as the host of a half Marvel podcast.
Hey, I mean, I can't even blame you for that, because I mean, I don't know what to feel about Marvel. Like, I walked out Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania feeling confused. Like, am I supposed to love this or not? Like, I feel obligated to love it, but at the same time, it's kind of I don't really I don't want to I feel there's so much hate that I feel like I just had to defend it, but at the same time, it was kind of I don't know. Marvel needs to make this better and easier for me, so I don't have to go through the comment section of any post about Marvel and see a whole bunch of people hating on Marvel. It's very frustrating. So, Marvel, can you do a better job so that people can love you again? Even though, anything popular is never going to be loved by everyone. Marvel's too popular now. Now they're going to be hated on more than they're loved. But
they stuck around long enough to become the villain.
Exactly. Yeah. Daredevil. Speaking of becoming a villain, Daredevil. Marvel's getting a lot of hate for Daredevil. Why are they getting hate for Daredevil, you may ask? Because they're giving people exactly what they've been begging for how many years? So they're getting hate because they decided to recast one character, and they have not announced the return of Karen Page and Foggy Nelson. In the role with the actors, or they haven't announced anything to do with them, and they recast Vanessa Fisk, and people are having a fit on the internet. What do you think about this?
I'm gonna have a little bit of a fit too. This is such a weird choice to me. Either bring the Daredevil people in, go all in, say the Daredevil show is canon, do all the things, or just reboot it. They're trying to have their cake and eat it too, because they've even said they're I think it was I don't know what's his name, Matt Murdock in an interview
Charlie
was
Cox.
Charlie Cox. He was like this is a brand new thing, right? He straight up said that this is not a continuation of the Netflix show, and it's just so weird to do that. It leaves such a weird feeling in myself. I don't know how to it's the same person. It's the same two people in a very similar situation, but you want me to forget about all the things that happened in the past with them. Yeah, this is really weird. This is a choice for sure.
So, okay, this is the thing. Well, first of all, I mean, I have a hunch here, and I think what they're going to do basically, I don't think they're actually going to, I don't know what they're going to do with Foggy and Karen, but I also don't think they're going to basically just recast them, expect you to believe that's them, right? I think the two most likely scenarios are they do come back, right? But maybe it's maybe there is some contractual thing, or we don't know what the deals with Netflix are structured. Maybe there is there could be a waiting period or something that's kind of forcing them to not use them that we don't know about, which the internet wouldn't have the depth to think about. So, there is that possibility, and they want to bring them back, and they will, and they'll just they'll just use a reason that they're no longer there, right? And they'll kind of say, maybe they had some falling out or whatever, right? And they can just kind of write them out, at least for the time being, especially if they don't know what to do with them, right? I don't think if they aren't in this show, it's an absolute travesty of everything. Obviously, you half the Daredevil comics don't have Foggy Nelson, and I don't know what they liked the last Daredevil comic that had Karen Page. You know what I mean? These aren't characters where Daredevil cannot exist or Matt Murdock cannot exist without them. They're just characters who we like and we would like to see back. We know the Punisher is going to be back, and I mean, I think it's good to be with Daredevil because on his own he sucked. We know obviously Wilson Fisk is going to be back, and I think he was the most. I think of all the people in that show, he was the only one I cared about. Like, I didn't care about anybody else in that show coming back except for him. And I think that I don't think I'm going to realize that there's a different person playing Vanessa Fisk. I don't know. Like, I don't think that's going to be something that's going to pop into my mind.
Yeah, it doesn't. I mean, you're right. I'm not sad about not having Foggy there or the recasting because there's a lot of like we've done the recasting thing. War Machine was recasted. Thunderbolt Ross is about to be recasted. Like, it's a thing that happens. I'm not mad at it. I think the biggest thing is you're telling me that the Netflix show isn't canon. I don't know. It's just.
But it could be canon, but maybe they don't want, like, even if they could say it's canon and then just recast them and just move on. Even like you said, Hulk was recast. Hulk's more important than any of those characters. So.
Yeah.
You know.
I think the other thing is these characters are so similar. Like, they're doing their Netflix thing, right? They came in, like, like when they step on set, they're playing that role. They're not playing, the new multiversal version of Daredevil. They're playing Netflix's Daredevil.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're gonna keep, like, I think it in a weird way, you don't really have to care about what happened in the show to, like, continue on and keep the show canon. Like, you could basically keep it canon. Like, essentially nothing changed from, like, the show to now, in the sense that you could just say, oh, a lot of time has passed. The only thing I'm kind of just wondering, depending on how they handle this, is the whole Bullseye thing, because that was the end of season 3 of Daredevil. Was the whole Bullseye reveal. Oh, are you muted?
Yeah, sorry. Let me preface this real quick because I actually have not finished the Daredevil show, and I'm going to.
Oops.
I'm like halfway through season 2.
Sorry.
So be careful with the spoiler. It's okay. I actually don't care that much, but I care a little bit.
Okay. Well. So that show ends on, like, a slight cliffhanger, I guess is the best way to say it, right? But, like, there's no real change, and like if you just fast forward 5 years, or whatever, you could kind of. And I don't even remember fully what happens at the end. I just remember that because, whatever. But, like, at the end, it's like, it doesn't matter, in my opinion, based on what I remember of the show. And I'm not going to probably go back and watch it before Actually, no, I am, because I'm a nerd and that's what I do. But, like, I wouldn't need to watch it again. But, right. And I just don't think it matters all that much. Like, I don't think, like, I've read Daredevil comics. I can tell you for a fact that Daredevil doesn't require any of these characters who are basically who are literally like cardboard cutout characters to be, like, cool. You give us some cool lawyer Daredevil scenes. You give us some, like, Daredevil fighting scenes that are awesome and filmed awesome. I don't know if I can really complain about that.
Yeah, so don't get me wrong. Like, I care enough to, like, have a 2-minute rant about it on a podcast, but I'm not going to go on Reddit. I'm going to forget that we had this conversation, and I am going to enjoy it. I'm not like, I probably came off more upset than I am. Like, truly, it doesn't matter to me at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just excited we're getting Daredevil back. I mean, he was great in She-Hulk. Yeah. I mean, I'm one of the few people apparently who absolutely loved She-Hulk as one of my favorite MCU shows. But I think Daredevil was great in that. I think he's going to be back great. I know people are going to cry about the R rating and the violence and whatever the hell. And I mean, people are going to just be people. But I think Marvel's in a good spot with that show specifically. Maybe the rest of the stuff's a little bit questionable, but that show specifically, I think it's in a good spot. They got the Dexter director, I think, to do it.
Yeah, that's promising, I think.
Hey, I mean, that seems like a very, very positive thing. Yeah. Do you have any last kind of thoughts? I know you have to go, so I want to make sure that I get you out on time.
No, actually, Khalil, again, I actually really enjoy. I thought we would disagree way more than we did. This was a very nice conversation, and it was a pleasure talking to you. It
was a great talking to you and having you on. We're gonna have to do this again. Yeah. See, typically when I'm on my own show, I'm a lot more insightful and reasonable and logical. When I go on other shows, my goal is just to cause some chaos and be controversial. Like that too, I mean, you weren't like that today. I mean, apart from, like, okay. I guess, so, but, like,
I came in wanting to fight you. Let's be fair.
Yeah, you did. You came in ready to fight, and I mean, on my show, I gotta, like, show a little bit of, the professionalism and the insight.
Okay, you did good.
Now, when I'm on your shows, I'm just going to blow things up and cause some problems and, just say a bunch of dumb things. But, here, you get a lot more of the real, like, takes, the things that aren't, like, there for sensationalism. But, yeah, thank you. And, again, it was so great to have you on. It took me, like, a bunch of months to have you on after you had me on for... And was it Andor? Book of Boba Fett? Andor, probably?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Andor, yeah.
So it was great to talk Star Wars, and it was really convenient because, like, I was like, okay, are we just gonna have like a very empty kind of like nothing really to talk about, and then Star Wars goes and does its stuff, and so then I'm like, hey, this worked out perfectly for me. So thank you, Star Wars, for being topical and always causing problems.
And thank you, MCU fans, for being irrational and insane.
Exactly. Like, without those people, what would we talk about? And again, everyone should check out Star Wars podcast. They have a great Jar Jar thing. They have a whole bunch of other amazing stuff, like the top tier quality. Again, if you want some of that deep, nuanced takes, or if you want like week to week Star Wars recaps, go there because you're not getting that here because I refused to. After that, I did one for Bad Batch. The numbers sucked, and I'm like, I'm done. I'm never doing another week to week Star Wars thing again. So,
you picked the worst possible show to do it for, though.
I know, and I'm sure if I did it, like not. Like, if I did it actually, like, when it comes out and not, like, the day after, then I'm sure the numbers would probably be better, too. But, that was enough for me to say, I'm done with this, never doing that again. So if you want some week-to-week Star Wars content, then go there, because I could tell you for a fact that is insightful, and it is entertaining, and, you keep finding great people to bring on, and as much as I sometimes, listen to and heavily disagree with everything you say, I know that you love Star Wars, and I know that, at the end of the day, we both love Star Wars, and that's what matters.
Yes, sir. Well said.
So, again, I know you have to go, and, again, I'm going to encourage everyone who's still listening at this point and hasn't fallen asleep. I think people just listen to this as they fall asleep. I think that's kind of like what people do. That's what I do for podcasts. If you haven't fallen asleep and you're listening to this, then you should subscribe to our channel, and then also subscribe there, especially if you love Star Wars, if you love Marvel. There we have Marvel content too. Again, week to week stuff. You do week to week stuff for Marvel shows, right?
Yes.
Yeah, you do. Okay. Yeah. So again, if you want any week to week content for shows, then go there because unless I have some very strong opinions or the internet has some very strong opinions, you probably won't get that from me because the numbers aren't great for those, and so we like good numbers, and so go there.
Trust me, I know.
Oh, yeah. So go there if you want the week-to-week stuff. Everything else you'll get here. Yeah. And hopefully we'll have you back. Because...
Yeah, I'd love to come back. And I'd love to have you back on mine at some point.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe for Marvel something next time.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, right now, you're going to... I'm like a week delayed on things. So, like, on shows. Except for Mandalorian, I guess, which I just watched. But, like, other than Bad Batch, I'm not watching anything, like, when it comes out. Because Bad Batch is fun and everything else is kind of, But, Ahsoka. Well, I'll come back for Ahsoka, I guess.
Okay, look, I'll put you on the list for Ahsoka. How about that?
Because I'm gonna have some very strong opinions about that show, and most of them will be positive no matter what happens, because
that's good.
Yeah, so maybe we'll just agree the entire time and it'll be boring. I don't know. Depends on what you think about Ahsoka. And again... do you want to plug anything before you head off?
No, that's about it. You covered it. Yeah, check out Star Wars. Follow us on Instagram at Star Wars Pod. I like to tell everyone to go there. I think the Instagram is just as valuable as the actual podcast because I like to interact with people. I like to post fun things, and I love to have people join along. So if you don't listen to the podcast, at least check out the Instagram.
Yeah, and if you're listening to this, if you're watching this on YouTube, because you've been staring at the Star Wars Pod handle underneath. And obviously you should follow me on Instagram and follow the channel Instagram. My Instagram's underneath me and the channel one's at the bottom of the screen. And if you're watching on podcasts, just scroll down to the description while you're listening because you can do that. And then you can just see all of the handles because that's where they are. Yes. And then subscribe on YouTube in the podcast app and leave us do all the stuff people tell you to do. I don't know. I feel like I should just pre-record like an outro. And just so I don't have to do that.
It's like a lot.
because it's like I just forget, and then it's like weird, and so I'm like, I should just pre-record outro so I don't have to do any of the work. But here we are. I'm trying to like struggle through an outro, so all that great stuff. And yeah, I don't know, maybe I didn't cover something, or I did. I don't know, but thank you again for coming on, because I'm just rambling now. And
no, this is great. Thanks for having me.
And I will see you all listening and watching at some point. I don't know when this is coming out. This could be coming out in 2 weeks from now. There's no clue. I have 2 episodes I gotta like figure out what to do with. So there's probably a week old news at this point. That's kind of funny, but it is what it is. Anyways, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.